everyone, Kingdom Hearts 3 is literally just around the corner, and you know what that means? Now's as good a time as any to try and decipher the story and learn what we might need in order to approach the finale of the Dark Seeker Saga. But how hard can it be? How complicated could a story about Disney characters with a little bit of JRPG spice actually be? This complicated? Oh no! That's right, over the last 17 years and like 8 or 9 unique games and a movie, Kingdom Hearts has transcended into something a little more complicated than just fighting darkness with Disney princesses.
Say fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness? Your Majesty!
So, strap yourself in as I honestly do my best to attempt to actually understand and maybe explain all the bits and pieces of the story that you might possibly need. We'll start with some commonly used terms. Heart. One of the most commonly used phrases. It's basically kind of like the soul, but it's not actually the soul, but it's like the soul, but in a sort of wishy-washy, everyone's got a heart, and then when they lose their heart, they become evil. So it's basically the soul, but it's not the soul. Kingdom Hearts. Now this is basically like the heart of, well, all of the worlds, as a, like, or all of reality. Basically it's like this all-powerful heart/soul thing, entity, for literally the entire known universe. Essentially. Keyblade, it's a sword that looks like a key. It does unlock things, so it has the functionality of both a key and a sword. Keyblade, with an X, the Greek key, actually basically a legendary sword, like an X-Blade, yeah, which is supposedly meant to unlock Kingdom Hearts, or like access to Kingdom Hearts, or summon Kingdom Hearts, or something along those lines. But maybe like the confusion in the name is how we got Keyblades. The other ones. Darkness. It's just the bad stuff. You don't want to be part of the darkness. Not that one. Right, on with the story now, and it's gonna jump around a little bit here and there, but honestly, it is the closest thing to a logical progression that I can actually think of explaining the story without cutting through actual story paths at the same time. So bear with me. We're gonna start with Kingdom Hearts Key or Cross or X back cover, which was the film in 2.8 final chapter prologue, and it basically vaguely surmises the story, if not sets the setting for the mobile games Kingdom Hearts X Key Cross and Kingdom Hearts X Key Cross Unchained. I don't know if these are actually part of the meant to be important, but I'm gonna put them here anyway. Long, long ago, in the age of fairy tales, the Master of Masters, who was this sort of seemingly omnipotent man, had a book of prophecies, and in it, he predicted that, well, the world's about to end. And the way he dealt with this, he left. He did leave, however, his 6 disciples in charge of trying to make sure the world didn't end, and they decided to deal with this by having a big fight and causing the world to end.
You fool!
Basically, one of the disciples, called Luxu, he wasn't in charge of like maintaining order or anything. He was just told to simply watch, because he was given the Keyblade No Name, which is important because it's got the eye, or one of the eyes, of the Master of Masters in it. So by passing this thing down through generations of people, the Master of Masters is able to see the future because his eye is always like relaying information back to him, which is how he wrote his book of prophecies and predicted the world was going to end. Also, he has a box of some form. I don't know, he watched the Keyblade War happen and the world end. This is important, I think, because like, why else is it here? Then we jump forward quite significantly in time to a young man called Xehanort. He's still on the beach of Destiny Island, and he's like, oh man, I hate this beach. So he leaves somehow and meets Master Ericus, and they have a good friendship, I assume. Then we jump forward again to Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Now in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, we are joined once again by Master Xehanort, who is definitely not evil, and he's training a young disciple, Ventus. And by training, I mean stuffing him so full of darkness that he splits in twain. But, like, not actually in twain. He's still Ventus, in a coma, and Vanitas, who's like his evil version. Now the important thing here is that while Ventus was like, I'm dying because I've just been split in twain, a young and new birthed Sora reached out with his heart and was like, hey man, why don't you hang out on my heart?
Huh?
So Ventus's heart essentially entered into Sora's heart, and now that's where that is. We jump forth again, and Ventus is part of Master Ericus's team with Aqua and Terra. Some stuff happens, and everyone runs away. Whoops. And as they each have their own story, as they bumble around the world, a number of things happen. Terra becomes sort of training under Xehanort, but he keeps on being taught how to be evil, which is a bit of a red flag. Ventus keeps on having interactions with Vanitas, who is actually now looking like Sora because Sora and Ventus were connected, and Aqua is just trying to clean up everyone's messes. During their travels, Terra lands on Destiny Island and like performs the rite of passing or something like that with Riku, which would then mean that Riku can wield the Keyblade, which is important. Similarly, Aqua stumbles upon in Radiant Garden a young girl named Kairi, who she's like, oh heck, this girl's full of light, better protect her, and cast like a protective charm on her, but inadvertently also makes her able to wield a Keyblade, which is important. Both of those are important. But oh no, it turns out that Master Xehanort was evil, and Terra ultimately ends up killing Master Ericus because he wanted to kill Ventus, because Ventus is part of Master Xehanort's evil plan. They then all meet at the Keyblade graveyard, and this is where things get out of hand for the first time. Terra fights Master Xehanort, but he's so full of darkness that Master Xehanort manages to climb in his body, basically, and then possess him, becoming Terra Xehanort, as apparently it is now officially known. Also, it's worth noting during this big fight that Xehanort's Keyblade, it looks exactly like Luxu's Keyblade. In fact, it's the same Keyblade. It's the no-name, which is probably important. Meanwhile, Ventus has a fight with Vanitas because it turned out that the entire plot of Xehanort, other than to get a hot new body to live in, was to have a being of like pure darkness and a being of pure light who are really strong to clash to form the Keyblade, the X-Blade. And this happens, and it's bad news. Anyway, that stops happening, and then Ventus goes into like a comatose state because he manages to like accept Vanitas as part of him, maybe, and Aqua just watches this all happen, and it's a bad time all round because basically all her friends have died. Dying sucks, apparently. They all kind of get split apart for a moment, and Aqua manages to find Ventus, put his comatose body in the Land of Departure, which is where they all once trained, and then like seals it into Castle Oblivion, where his body now rests in what is known as the Chamber of Waking, which is important, I hope, because why else will it exist? Meanwhile, Terra Xehanort lands in Radiant Garden, and then Aqua's all like, you've killed my friend. I want him back. So they have a fight, and Aqua wins. However, Terra, inside his own body, which is possessed by like Xehanort, is gonna like fall into darkness, which is bad. So Aqua like sacrifices herself to save Terra's heart, which is then basically locked in Terra Xehanort's body with Xehanort's heart and mind and all that stuff. And then Aqua is lost into the Dark Realm forever. Meanwhile, Terra Xehanort, because like of the internal struggle of Terra and Xehanort, has amnesia. Oh no! But there's a man named Braig who was working with Old Man Xehanort, so he's there to like be like, hey, Terra Xehanort, you're evil. Also, Aqua's armor is left behind and is like put in what is known as the Chamber of Repose, which, much like the Chamber of Waking, I assume is important because otherwise why would it exist? This is important. In the, I'd guess, years that follow, Xehanort, Terra Xehanort, becomes an apprentice of Ansem the Wise, and during their studies of the darkness, Xehanort leads like a rebellion against Ansem and ultimately throws him and banishes him into the Dark Realm, which is bad. And then all the 6 disciples then all decide to submit to the darkness, which we'll get onto later.
My name is Ansem.
Kingdom Hearts is where we're at next. In Kingdom Hearts, we find ourselves with a young Sora, Riku and Kairi. Kairi is here and not in Radiant Garden because her world was lost to darkness, but thanks to like the protective charm, she turned up in Destiny Island. So is fine. These 3 chums are just hanging out, living their best life, wishing to get off an island. And what could possibly go wrong? Turns out, their world's about to blow up, which means no one can eat this delicious pao poo fruit, which is just a big symbolic thing about like the friendship between like Sora and Kairi, because if you eat the fruit, you're gonna like stay connected forever. It's in the shape of a star, which is also like the shape of all the wayfinders and stuff. It's probably important. Their entire world is destroyed and consumed by darkness. Sora, on the other hand, manages to gain the power of the Keyblade, fight his way to a big black hole, and then lose and find himself in Traverse Town, where he meets Donald and Goofy. Hooray! Not much of importance actually happens in Kingdom Hearts. On Sora's adventure, we find Riku. Yeah! But he is evil. Oh no! Because he's actually quite upset, because whilst Sora was out gallivanting with his newfound furry friends, quite literally, Riku was having a bad time trying to both save Kairi and like find everyone. So you find out that like your best friend's just off and having a good time, and you're like, dude, what the heck? It turns out though that Riku was being controlled by Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, which is the heartless, like an evil creature of darkness, of Terra Xehanort, from when he lost himself into darkness, because that's what happens. You lose yourself in darkness, you become a heartless. Oh no. Turns out his plan is by kidnapping the 7 Disney princesses of Heart, he's going to combine them to create the key to unlock hearts, or something, and use that to open like a door to darkness or something to get to Kingdom Hearts, which apparently exists in the Dark Realm for some reason. The reason this is important is because Kairi is one of these, but at the same time, Kairi's in a comatose state because her heart isn't actually in her body. It's in Sora's body, which is important. Sora defeats Riku and then uses the key to unlock people's heart to like unlock his own heart and basically like kill himself to save Kairi, and then you just try not to cry. Simple and clear.
Sora!
This is important. Sora turns into a Heartless, which is bad, but it's only for a short period of time because he is saved by Kairi, hooray! Then Sora goes to defeat Ansem the Seeker of Darkness, who is now a big boat for some reason. We're going to take a very brief side tangent to 0.2, a fragmentary passage, where we join Aqua, who is running through the realm of darkness, exploring all these fallen worlds and just having a bit of a bad time. But she is there to witness King Mickey, Mickey Mouse's king, and essentially Riku seal the door to darkness once they defeat Ansem the Seeker of Darkness in Kingdom Hearts 1. She then finds a beach. I assume this is important. So the day is saved, the door is sealed, everyone goes back to whence they came, except obviously Sora and Kairi and Riku, who all get split up. You try not to cry again.
I'll come back to you. I promise. I know you will. When you walk away, you don't hear me say, please, oh baby, don't go.
This is important.
Without a doubt, Kingdom Hearts is light.
This is where the story now splits in two. But I'm going to start with Kingdom Hearts Rechained of Memories, purely because it just kind of makes more sense to go in that direction. Cool. So, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are now like searching for King Mickey and Riku, who are lost in the realm of darkness and nightmares. It's probably no big deal. And they find a mysterious figure who's like, come to Castle Oblivion. Nothing bad will happen there. So they go to Castle Oblivion, and a lot of bad things happen there. Turns out it's being run by Organization 13, who are like a mysterious group who are trying to basically control Sora. And they're trying to do this by like replacing his memories of Kairi with memories of Naminé, and Naminé is the nobody of Kairi. What's a nobody? Well, when someone is lost to darkness, they become both a Heartless, and then like that's where their heart goes, ironically, and then like what's left is like the empty shell becomes a nobody. And if you've got like a powerful will or something, you become basically just you as a nobody. No disfiguration, you're just you. But wait, I thought Kairi didn't fall to darkness, so how is there a nobody of her? Well, if we go back to Kingdom Hearts 1, where I said that this is important because Kairi's heart was in Sora, when Sora lost his heart and fell to darkness, because Kairi's heart was in Sora, it's technically like Kairi falling to darkness, but not quite. So Sora ultimately ended up creating the nobody of Kairi, which is Naminé. And for some reason she has magical powers to control, specifically, Sora's memories and memories about Sora. It is also worth noting that Organization 13 are also nobodies, of which a substantial amount of them were once the apprentices of Ansem the Wise. So he fights and defeats Organization 13, these ones, and ultimately saves the day. He also ends up fighting a sort of Riku replica a lot of the time, which is this sort of like fake Riku they created to try and, again, play on Sora's memories. When he gets to the end of Castle Oblivion, Sora's all like, oh no, I know I was meant to kind of beat you up, but I now have emotions for both fake Riku and fake Kairi. I know I should be feeling things for Kairi, but also new friends. What do I do? So he goes into a big sleep because he ultimately decides that having memories of his real friends is probably a good idea, and Naminé puts him in a big sleep so she can restore his memories, but ultimately erase her existence from reality, basically. In both of these instances though, both like fake Riku and also like Namine basically kind of show that despite nobody's not having a heart, they have emotions and maybe they have a heart.
You want to remember all of the people who are really important to you. Anybody would choose that.
This is important. Also, I think Namine becomes part of Sora again at some point. But at the same time, Riku is here. Somehow he got out of the dark dimension. That's right. And he's like running up from the basement to, I guess, the ground floor of Castle Oblivion. He also fights a number of Organization 13. These ones, why not? And has like this big, long, convoluted story about not giving into the darkness. But it ultimately ends with him giving into the darkness in some form, and he's like, oh no, I'm full of evil, but not evil. And he joins forces with a man named Diz, capital D, capital Z, to try and bring back Sora's memories whilst he's having his big sleep. This is also important. Rechain of memories is a little confusing, so just as a very, very rapid recap, Sora loses his memories and then goes into a big sleep to regain them. Namine is like the nobody of Kairi and basically is important. Then you've got the fake Riku, who's literally just like a doll given emotions and kind of forms a heart. He's probably going to actually be important if you watch any of the trailers. And then like Riku is fine. He joins Diz because he's really angsty, basically. Whilst all of this is happening though, we also have like Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, which follows the story of Roxas, who is Sora's nobody. But I thought Namine was Sora's nobody. Yes, but during this moment, the important moment that we touched on earlier, because he had 2 hearts in him, he created 2 nobodies. One was Namine, and the other is Roxas. But you might also be thinking, Roxas looks a lot like Ventus, Chris. Yes, because if we go all the way back to Birth by Sleep, when I said this is important, because Sora and Ventus are sort of connected through their hearts, much like how Vanitas looked like an older Sora, because at the time he was just a baby, Roxas now looks like Ventus, because why not? So, Roxas is part of Organization 13, who we know are probably evil. During his time there, he befriends Axel. This is important purely because, I mean, they're like a really good friendship, and it's just a really good story. Honestly, it just gets me quite emotional. Anyway, during Roxas's time at Organization 13, some of the members go off to Castle Oblivion, including Axel, who was sent to kill everyone, which is probably a little bit important, maybe. We also find out, though, that Axel was sent to try and find the Chamber of Waking as well, which I mentioned in Birth by Sleep. Again, probably important. Roxas is important to Organization 13 because he can use a Keyblade, and they want to use him to kill Heartless, because when you kill a Heartless with a Keyblade, it releases the heart, and the organization are using that to create their own Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 2 happened. Yeah, that's Kingdom Hearts 2. Anyway, during this time though, a mysterious new member arises in Organization 13, a 14th member, Xion. And friendship happens because it's just a game about friendship. Good chums, having a good time. What could possibly go wrong? I'll tell you. Turns out Xion isn't real. She is meant to be a replica of Roxas using the memories, Sora's memories, of Kairi, because why not? The reason that Xion exists is purely because like Roxas probably started having doubts about the Organization 13's plans, so they brought in like this new puppet form to replace him if he ever got out of turn. Xion, upon finding out that she's not actually like a real human being or a real nobody or anything, she goes berserk and basically is quite sad. Generally, it's really sad. She has a big fight with Roxas, and Roxas wins, but because she is basically created out of memories, when she returns back to Roxas, she ultimately just ceases to exist, but not even just a, oh god, I'm dead, it's like she was never even real. So everyone forgets about her.
You are both my best friends. Never forget. That's the truth.
But as we all know, hearts are a thing, so she's kind of now like, her heart is probably in Sora as well, or some, you know, there's remnants of her in there, probably. After all of this, Roxas is like, this is a bit shit, so he decides to leave Organization 13, and is then hunted down by Riku, and they have a big fight. It's really cool. And then Riku loses. But then he doesn't, because he uses the power of darkness and ultimately ends up looking like Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, which is technically important. Anyway, once Roxas is captured, he is taken to Twilight Town and Diz, where he's put in like a simulation, because in order for Sora to come back, he needs to get his memories back from Roxas. So he needs to be like assimilated. This is important.
Why? Why do you have the Keyblade? Shut up!
Which takes us to Kingdom Hearts 2, where we start with like the assimilation process in Roxas. While Roxas is being like absorbed into Sora, Axel keeps on trying to communicate with him because I guess he's sad that his friend's dying. And Roxas becomes a bit sad once he realizes that he's also dying, because I guess dying sucks. Roxas dies, basically he's absorbed into Sora, and Sora's back. Hooray, he's here to fight the Heartless again. But also Organization 13, of which there's only like 6 members left because a lot of them died.
Organization 13!
These ones are left. In fact, leader of Organization 13 is Xemnas, who is the nobody of like Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, who, as I'm probably mentioned, I can't even remember anymore, is the Heartless of Xehanort, who took the name Ansem, which is why they're all called like Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and Xemnas, which is just Ansem with an X and then anagrammed. So they all came from one person. This is technically important. Axel kidnaps Kairi. Kairi escapes again and is then kidnapped again. Technically quite important because it then puts her in position and creates a good friendship with Axel, which is apparently a thing now. Turns out Organization 13, as I previously mentioned, wanted to use Sora to kill a lot of Heartless, create a Kingdom Hearts, and then so all the nobodies could gain hearts and become real humans. Sora begins to storm the castle, not Castle Oblivion, it's the world that never was, but it's the castle in which the nobodies live in, and ultimately he meets Riku again. Hooray! But he does look like Ansem the Seeker of Darkness, which is bad. But that's fine, because he no longer looks like that, because words of encouragement.
Riku! Riku!
Riku!
Riku! Riku!
Kairi now also has a Keyblade, which is important. She got one because Birth by Sleep happened. It turns out that Diz was Ansem the Wise all along, which is cool.
King Mickey, my friend, forgive me. Farewell.
He's dead now, and then Sora manages to beat the rest of Organization 13, including Xemnas, who is evil. And then Sora and Riku get like trapped in the dark world for a while, and then as they wait to die, they're like, oh, light. It's a theme. And then they're home, and you try not to cry.
We're back.
You're home.
and you.
This is important.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
We find ourselves with like probably the lesser known game, which is Recoded now, which takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2, in which Jiminy's journal, the key character that he is being like backed up onto a hard drive, but it seems to be like corrupted. So Mickey creates like a data soarer to run around in the hard drive version of Jiminy's journal to find out what the corruption was, which is basically like the vague memories of Naminé and like Xion and I guess Roxas and stuff like that. People who technically don't exist anymore, because they existed, it was causing an issue. During this period though, both Data Sora, Data Naminé and Data Riku are all things and seemingly gain enough sentience to be important because they've basically got hearts. This is important, apparently. During this time as well, Maleficent and Pete are also there, and they talk about going to go find the Book of Prophecies, which was mentioned all the way back here, so it's probably important. So basically, like, the main thing to take away from it is the fact that Data Sora and Data Riku have hearts, and we shouldn't really create sentient beings out of a diary. It's just gonna go wrong.
Remember, we're friends forever, Sora.
Yep. Friends forever, Your Majesty.
On to Dream Drop Distance now, and Sora and Riku are basically taking like their GCSEs for Keyblades. There's like the Mark of Mastery exam, in which they have to go into a dream-like state and do some stuff. They go into what is known as sleeping worlds, or like worlds in a dreamlike state to basically like wake them up. It's never really explained what this means, but I think it is important because we all know someone who's a little bit sleepy. It's Ventus in the Room of Waking. It's probably important. During all of this, we get visions of the apprentices and all the other nobodies like coming to in the lab, because it turns out apparently with these nobodies, once they've been killed, their original forms come back. So they basically like resurrect for some reason. During this time though, you keep spotting like different versions of Ansem and Xehanort as you're exploring through these worlds, like Xemnas and Ansem Seeker of Darkness, despite the fact that you have already killed them. So what's up with that? I'll tell you what's up with that, because this is where things get wild. It turns out that...
Hey, let's hit these plot points in order. Sora, Roxas.
When Xehanort turned himself into a Heartless and Nobody, his Heartless had the power to travel through time for some reason. I think by like getting rid of his corporeal form or something. So that travelled back in time to when like Xehanort was on the beach being like, I just wish I could get off this island. So he then learned how to travel in time. So young Xehanort now knows how to travel in time and was given the quest of travelling through time to gather all the different forms of Xehanort into one place to create like 13 darknesses. And so this was like Xemnas, Ansem Seeker of Darkness, Xehanort, young Xehanort, and then also additionally people who have been filled with darkness and been like filled with Xehanort's essence to become his vessels, like Braig or Zigbar and Sykes, who is also evil. This is important because it's basically like the antagonist for Kingdom Hearts 3. Time travel. The thing is though, that when young Xehanort finishes his mission of travelling through time, he then returns back to his time to forget everything so that Xehanort can once again come up with the idea of travelling through time himself to then allow himself to travel through time and Turns out, though, that they are missing one final vessel of darkness, in which normally you'd think Riku, he's been evil quite a lot, but he's now built up an immunity to darkness, so they target Sora by confusing him about the fact that he is so full of hearts. Like, just been like, hey, do you know this person? Sora's like, I don't know who that is. Like, they're in you, ha ha ha. You're full of people, they're all dead because of you. And Sora's like, oh no. And he ultimately sort of panics and almost loses himself to darkness, but he goes to sleep because he's like trapped in Ventus's armor, which is probably important due to that whole bit over here, probably. So it turns out that Xehanort's entire plan at this point is to gather 13 like warriors of darkness and then 7 warriors of light, because when they were to clash, Kingdom Hearts would appear again. It's got a lot of ways of appearing, and then hopefully Xehanort would win and be able to reshape the universe in his image, which he's almost already done because everyone is Xehanort. Everyone is Xehanort now. So with the real Organization 13 revealed, because the original one was just a means of creating vessels for Xehanort to live in, Riku saves the day, passes his exam, Sora fails the exam because of that whole like almost losing himself to darkness thing, who would have thunk it, and then also Axel, or Lee as he now is, gets a Keyblade, and he's now a Keyblade wielder.
Must be in the snap of the wrist or something. Oh.
So, after all of that, this long and probably very confusing, because I don't know what I've said, video, we leave ourselves with the stage set in which Sora, Riku, Mickey, Kairi, Axel, Yen, Sid, all of these people are all preparing themselves to fight the real Organization 13, which is basically 13 Xehanorts and possibly more. So it will probably involve trying to find 7 Guardians of Light, as well as a whole bunch of Keyblade warriors, and hopefully saving Aqua, who's in the Realm of Darkness, Ventus, who's in Sora, Terra, who's in Xehanort, Terra Xehanort, in the past, so he's probably dead now. But that's in theory everything you need to know for Kingdom Hearts 3. The way I know it basically is because I've just summarized everything, except for X and Unchained X, because they're mobile games and they're not actually finished yet, so they may just be their own little separate story. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 3, hopefully it finds a way to wrap all of this up, because I don't know how. Hi, thanks for watching my essentially descent into madness about Kingdom Hearts. If you liked it, do feel free to let me know by hitting like, etc. Or check out another video where I've got like Kingdom Hearts 2, a review. That's a new thing. Or, I don't know, another Kingdom Hearts video. Something will be here. Or click on my face to subscribe to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.